Richard Mokoena sat alone in his glass-walled office in Sandton, staring at the Johannesburg skyline. At 62, he was one of the richest men in South Africa. His empire stretched from luxury apartments in Cape Town to mining companies in Limpopo. Yet, in that quiet office, he felt like the poorest man alive. His wife barely spoke to him anymore unless it was about money. His children only visited when they needed something: cars, credit cards, business deals. None of them ever asked, "Dad, how are you feeling?" That night, Richard whispered to himself, "Do they love me, or my money?" The thought grew heavier until he called his lawyer, Mr. Daniels. "I want to test them," Richard said. "I want to know the truth before I die." Mr. Daniels raised a brow. "What do you mean?" Richard leaned forward. "I want them to believe I'm dead. I want to see how they react when they think I'm gone. Who cries for me? Who celebrates? Who fights for my money?" The lawyer hesitated, then slowly nodded. "It's risky, but it will give you answers." Within days, everything was set. A false death certificate. A fake hospital announcement. Even a funeral date. Only Richard, his lawyer, and his most trusted driver, Sifo, knew the truth. The news hit his family like a thunderstorm. His wife screamed over the phone. His eldest son, Michael, rushed from Cape Town shouting, "The company is mine now." His daughter, Angela, started posting sad pictures online with captions like, "RIP to the greatest dad," while secretly calling bankers about his estate. Richard, hidden in a small hotel under disguise, watched it all unfold on hidden cameras installed in his mansion and office. He smiled bitterly. So this is what I mean to them. But he had no idea, the funeral would reveal far more than greed. The news of Richard Mokeena's death spread like wildfire through Johannesburg. By the next morning, the mansion in Sandton was filled with expensive cars, Mercedes, BMWs, and even a Rolls-Royce. But none of them had arrived because of love. Inside the living room, Michael, the eldest son, stood tall in a designer suit. "As the firstborn, it's clear I should take control of Dad's empire," he announced. His voice carried the weight of entitlement. Angela, his sister, rolled her eyes and crossed her legs. "Please, Michael. You can't even run your own life. You've had 3 failed businesses, all funded by Dad. Why would he trust you with billions?" Their younger brother, Jason, who had always been the quiet one, spoke up. "We should focus on mourning first, not fighting over money." But no one listened. Their mother, Linda, sat in the corner sipping wine, her eyes red from tears, but her heart was calculating. She had already contacted her lawyer, secretly planning how much of Richard's estate she could legally claim. Unseen to them, Richard sat in a nearby hotel room, eyes fixed on a tablet streaming live footage from hidden cameras in every corner of the house. Sifo, his driver, leaned against the wall. "Sir, they're already fighting. It hasn't even been 24 hours. Richard's chest tightened. He had expected disappointment, but watching it unfold felt like knives in his heart. "Still," he whispered, "let's see how far they'll go." As night fell, the mansion grew darker, but the greed inside burned brighter. Angela pulled Michael aside. "If you think you're taking everything, you're wrong. I have Dad's passwords. Don't push me." Michael leaned closer, his voice cold. "Then we'll see who's stronger. This isn't about love. It's about survival." Jason, overhearing, clenched his fists. For the first time in his life, he felt something snap inside. At that exact moment, Richard closed his tablet, shaking his head. "My funeral will expose everything. They won't know what hit them." The countdown to the fake burial had begun. 2 days after Richard's death, the Mokoena mansion turned into a circus. The driveway was clogged with luxury cars. Business partners, old friends, church members, and even curious neighbors arrived with flowers and somber faces. But behind the polite handshakes and fake hugs, everyone wanted to know the same thing: what happens to Richard's billions? Michael strutted around like a king. "Thank you for coming. Don't worry, the company is safe under my leadership," he bragged to Richard's board members. They exchanged looks, whispering, "Safe? This man doesn't even know how to run a meeting." Angela had her own performance. She sat in the lounge, tears rolling down her cheeks, tissues piling up beside her. Anyone watching would think she was heartbroken. But the moment she slipped into the kitchen, she hissed at her mother, "Mom, we need to secure Dad's Cape Town properties before Michael tries anything." Linda nodded, eyes sharp. "Leave that to me. I know the lawyers. Just focus on acting like the grieving daughter." Meanwhile, Jason stayed in his room, scrolling through online posts about his father. People wrote things like he built half of Johannesburg and rest in peace, legend. Jason felt torn. Did his father ever know how much he admired him? Did he even get the chance to say it? Unseen, Richard sat in his hotel room, glued to the feeds. When he saw Michael boasting, Angela scheming, and Linda plotting, he muttered, "So much greed. I raised wolves, not children." But what shook him most came later that evening. A business rival, Mr. Kumalo, arrived at the mansion. He leaned close to Michael and whispered, "Listen, with your father gone, the mining contracts are vulnerable. Sign them over to me, and I'll give you a cut. No one needs to know." Michael hesitated. His father wasn't even buried yet, and already vultures circled. Back in the hotel, Richard's fist slammed the table. "They would sell me out to my enemies before I'm even in the ground." Saifo looked at him carefully. "Sir, if you don't stop this soon, they might destroy everything you built." Richard's eyes narrowed. "No. Let them dig their own graves first. Then, I'll rise from mine." The Mokoena mansion looked more like a war zone than a grieving home. It was supposed to be a time of mourning, but instead, every decision about Richard's funeral turned into a battle. Michael slammed a folder on the dining table. "Dad deserves the grandest funeral Johannesburg has ever seen. I've booked the most expensive coffin imported from Italy, lined with gold." Angela scoffed, tossing her braids. "Gold? Are you mad? That's a waste of money. People will laugh at us for showing off during a funeral." Michael leaned in, his voice dripping with venom. "You just don't want me in charge. Admit it." Their mother, Linda, cut in, her tone icy. "Both of you shut up. I've already spoken to the funeral home. The ceremony will be at the Sandton Convention Center. Thousands will attend. It's not about Richard, it's about protecting our image." Jason finally spoke, voice trembling but firm. "It's supposed to be about Dad. Not your image. Not your money. Him." They all turned on him at once. Michael laughed bitterly. "Jason, the saint. Always pretending to care. Let's be honest, you're too weak to handle this family." Jason's face burned, but he stayed silent. Deep inside, anger twisted like a knife. Meanwhile, in the hotel, Richard watched it all unfold through hidden microphones planted in the mansion. His hands shook with fury. "They're turning my funeral into a circus. They don't even see me as a man, just a brand." Saifo, leaning against the window, muttered, "Sir, they're going to spend millions on a show." "For who? Not for you." Richard's eyes darkened. "Exactly. Let them waste it. The bigger the funeral, the harder the shock when I walk in alive." That night, Linda gathered the children secretly. "Listen carefully," she said. "After the funeral, we need to move fast. Banks freeze accounts, vultures will come. We must secure the assets immediately." Angela whispered, "What about Dad's secret accounts? The offshore ones?" Michael smirked. "Don't worry. I'll find them. One way or another." Up in his hotel room, Richard froze. Offshore accounts? How did they know? His heart raced. His secret life was about to be exposed. And the funeral was still 3 days away. The closer the funeral came, the darker the secrets became. Angela sat alone in her room, scrolling through her phone. A message popped up from a hidden contact. "We still on for tonight? Can't wait till your father is out of the way." She quickly deleted it, but not before Saifo's hidden camera captured everything. Back at the hotel, Richard nearly dropped his glass of water. "Who the hell is she talking to?" he growled. Saifo replayed the clip in slow motion, zooming in on the number. Richard's heart sank. It was one of his closest friends, Peter Dlamini, a man he had trusted for over 30 years. "Angela, and Peter," Richard whispered, his face pale. His daughter, in secret with his best friend. Betrayal cut deeper than a knife. Meanwhile, Michael met Mr. Khumalo again in a dimly lit bar. "The deal is ready," Khumalo said, sliding over documents. "Sign over the mining contracts, and I'll give you 10% immediately. Cash. No one will ever know." Michael hesitated, glancing around nervously. But greed won. He picked up the pen. Hidden microphones caught every word. Back at the mansion, Linda poured herself another glass of red wine, pacing the living room. Her phone buzzed. It was a call from her lawyer. "Mrs. Mokoena, are you certain you want to challenge the will immediately after the funeral?" Linda smirked. "Absolutely. I know about his secret Cape Town villa. Don't ask how. Just make sure I get everything." Jason, overhearing from the stairs, froze. His mother was plotting against her own husband before the coffin was even lowered. Rage burned inside him, but fear kept him silent. At the hotel, Richard sat in stunned silence as he pieced it all together. His daughter with his best friend. His son selling him out to a rival. His wife scheming for more than her share. Only Jason seemed untouched, but was it because he truly cared, or because he was hiding something too? Richard clenched his fists. "They've all betrayed me. Every single one of them." But Sifo leaned closer, voice low. "Not all, sir. There may still be one loyal heart. Watch carefully, you might be surprised." Richard's eyes narrowed. For the first time, doubt crept in. The sun rose over Johannesburg with an eerie stillness. Black cars lined the streets outside the Sandton Convention Center. Journalists hovered, snapping photos of every guest who arrived. The whole city wanted to witness the farewell of Richard Mokoena, the billionaire giant. Inside, the atmosphere was anything but sacred. The coffin, sleek, golden, and outrageously expensive, stood in front of thousands of mourners. Gospel singers filled the air with sorrowful hymns. But behind the curtain, the Mokoena family was tearing each other apart. Michael adjusted his tie, muttering, "I'll give a speech that secures my image as the heir." Angela hissed, "Over my dead body. If anyone's speaking, it's me. I was closest to Dad." Linda, their mother, stepped between them, her face cold. "Shut your mouths. You both look like vultures fighting over scraps. Let me handle this. I'll speak for all of us." Jason, standing apart, shook his head in disgust. "This isn't a business meeting, it's Dad's funeral." But no one listened. As the service began, dignitaries, business partners, and church leaders took turns at the podium, praising Richard's legacy. Cameras flashed, live streams ran across social media, and hashtags like #GoodbyeMokoena trended nationwide. Then it was Michael's turn. He gripped the microphone, his voice trembling with fake grief. "My father was a great man, and I promised to carry his legacy into the future." Angela rolled her eyes so hard the cameras caught it. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Linda quickly stepped forward, seizing the microphone. "As Richard's wife, I know he wanted this family united. That's why," she paused dramatically, "we will continue his empire together." The audience clapped politely, but tension crackled like lightning. Suddenly, chaos erupted. Mr. Khumalo stormed in, waving documents. "This empire is mine now. Michael sold me the contract." Gasps filled the hall. Cameras turned. Angela screamed, "What? You betrayed us?" Michael's face drained of color. "It's not what it looks like." But before he could finish, another bombshell dropped. From the back, Peter Dlamini walked in. Angela froze, her face pale. Linda's eyes narrowed. "Why is he here?" And in a quiet hotel room, Richard watched the live stream, his hand trembling over the tablet. "They're destroying themselves," he whispered. "This is it. Time for the truth." The funeral was meant to honor Richard Mokoena. Instead, it turned into a battlefield. Gasps still echoed in the hall after Mr. Khumalo's outburst. Angela lunged at Michael, shoving him in front of everyone. "You snake. You sold Dad's empire to his enemies." Michael's face burned red. "Don't act innocent, Angela. Everyone here knows about you and Peter." The crowd roared with shock. Heads turned toward Angela, and in that instant, Peter Dlamini shifted uncomfortably under the spotlight. Whispers filled the room. His daughter with his best friend? Linda's hand shook as she grabbed the mic again. Enough. Stop embarrassing this family. Her voice cracked, but then Jason stood, trembling with rage. No, Mom, Jason said, his voice echoing. This family embarrassed itself long ago. You pretend to mourn Dad, but I heard you planning to steal his Cape Town villa before his body's even cold. The hall froze. Cameras zoomed in. Linda's wine-red lips parted, but no words came. Angela's face turned pale. Michael stammered, "This is all lies." Jason's chest heaved. No lies. Just truth. Dad gave everything to us, and what did we give him? Nothing but greed, betrayal, and fake love. The mourners murmured. Some nodded, some shook their heads. The scandal was spreading across social media in real time. Back in the hotel, Richard sat with his hands pressed over his mouth, eyes wide. His children had just burned their own masks off in front of the entire nation. Sifo muttered, "Sir, they're finished." But Richard didn't answer. His heart pounded with fury, grief, and something else, relief. Finally, the truth was out for all to see. Inside the hall, Linda fainted, collapsing into her chair. Angela's tears smeared her makeup. Michael stormed out, chased by reporters. Jason stood alone, trembling but unbroken, as the choir sang awkwardly in the background. The funeral was no longer about mourning Richard's death. It had become the public execution of the Mokoena family's reputation. And just when the world thought they had seen it all, Richard was preparing to step back into it alive. The choir's voices cracked as tension suffocated the hall. Reporters' cameras clicked like machine guns, capturing every tear, every scream, every scandal. Then, without warning, the heavy doors at the back creaked open. The sound was small, almost ordinary. But the effect was deadly. Everyone turned. And there he was. Richard Mokoena. Alive. He didn't storm in. He didn't shout. He just walked, slow, steady, in a black suit. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with fire. Gasps filled the hall. A woman screamed. Someone dropped a glass. For a moment, no one breathed. Michael froze mid-step, his tie half undone. Angela's lips parted in horror. Linda clutched her chest like she'd seen a ghost. Jason's knees nearly buckled. Richard reached the coffin, placed his hand on it, and turned to face the thousands of stunned mourners. His voice was low, but it sliced through the silence like a blade. "Imagine my surprise," he said, "to die, and discover the people I loved most were already celebrating my death." The crowd erupted. Reporters surged forward. Phones shot into the air, live streams exploding. #Richard Lives began trending instantly. Michael stammered, "Dad, this isn't, you can't." Richard's glare cut him off. Silence. "I heard everything. I saw everything. The deals, the betrayal, the lies, all of it." Angela's mascara ran as she whispered, "Dad, please, we thought." He snapped. "You thought I was gone. And in your greed, you showed me who you really are." Linda tried to step forward, forcing a weak smile. "Richard, darling, we were just grieving." Richard's laugh was cold, bitter. Grieving? Or scheming? The entire hall buzzed with tension. Every camera lens was fixed on him. Every viewer online was locked in, desperate to know what he would say next. Richard took a long breath, then said, "This funeral is not mine. It's yours. The funeral of my trust, my love, and this family's dignity." And with that, the hall fell into complete silence before chaos exploded again. The hall trembled with whispers. Reporters leaned forward, cameras locked. Everyone wanted the same thing, blood. Richard's eyes scanned the room slowly, like a judge surveying guilty criminals. Then he turned to his eldest son. "Michael." His voice was sharp, cold. "My firstborn. You were meant to protect the empire. Instead, you crawled to my enemies like a dog, selling my mining contracts for scraps. Do you deny it?" Michael's mouth opened, but words failed. The screen above the stage lit up with hidden camera footage of him signing documents with Kumalo. Gasps rippled through the audience. Richard's voice thundered. I built this empire with sweat and blood. You tried to sell it before my coffin was even closed. Michael dropped his head in shame, his face burning under the cameras. Richard's gaze shifted to Angela. My only daughter. Sweet Angela. His voice softened for a second, then hardened like steel. Sleeping with my oldest friend. Betraying me in the most intimate way. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Angela's knees shook as the footage played her secret messages with Peter Dlamini. The crowd erupted in whispers, shame, disgrace. Angela collapsed into her chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Richard turned slowly to his wife. And you, Linda. My partner for 35 years. While I lay dead, you plotted with lawyers to steal my assets. Not to secure the family, no. To keep it for yourself. Tell me, Linda, when did I stop being your husband and become just a bank account? Linda's mask cracked. Her lips trembled, but she forced out, Richard, I was only trying to protect us. Protect us? Richard snapped. No. Protect yourself. The audience murmured louder, phones flashing, the entire nation watching this family stripped bare. Finally, Richard turned to Jason. The hall braced itself. Jason's eyes filled with tears as he whispered, Dad, I never betrayed you. Richard studied him for a long moment. No, he said softly. You didn't. The silence that followed was heavier than any scream. Then Richard straightened, his voice rising. This was never a funeral for me. This was Judgment Day for my family. And the world will remember it forever. The crowd erupted into chaos. The hall was dead silent. Everyone waited for Richard's final words. His voice cut through like a blade. I trusted you all. My wife, my children. And in 1 week of pretending to be sick, you showed me exactly who you are. Linda tried to stand, her hands trembling. Richard, please, Silence. Richard thundered. You plotted to bury me alive. You wanted my death more than my life. He turned to Michael. You sold my empire behind my back. You will never touch a single cent of my legacy. Michael's eyes widened in panic. Dad, don't do this. I'm your son. Richard slammed the table. No. A son protects his father. You were a vulture waiting for me to stop breathing. Angela tried to crawl toward him, tears streaming down her face. Daddy, please. I was lost. I made a mistake. Richard's voice was ice. You betrayed the bloodline. You chose lust over loyalty. You are dead to me. Linda collapsed into her chair, whispering his name over and over, but Richard's eyes were already fixed on Jason. And you, he said softly, the only one who stayed true. Jason's eyes shone with tears. I never wanted your money, Dad. I just wanted you. For the first time, Richard's voice cracked. And that is why everything I own will be yours. The crowd erupted. Gasps, screams, camera flashes everywhere. Richard raised his hand for silence. From this day forward, Jason is the sole heir. The rest of you are strangers to me. Linda screamed, Michael cursed, Angela sobbed. But the world had already seen it all. Their shame was broadcast live to millions. Richard stood tall, his voice steady. I faked my sickness to test your love. You failed. And this empire will never belong to traitors. He turned, walked out with Jason at his side, leaving behind a broken family and a storm of flashing cameras. The audience in the hall and the millions watching online knew they had just witnessed the death of a family and the rebirth of an empire. And nobody could look away. Loyalty is priceless. Betrayal is unforgettable. If this story gripped you, there are more tales waiting for you here. Subscribe now, and don't miss the next story that will leave your heart racing.